Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Oh, dang it. I forgot the intro video. Whoops.
Well, we can always just go like this.
I don't consider myself a conspiracy buff at all, but when they get a lot of coincidences, I get a little suspicious and call me crazy.
Polls, weird talk shows, crazy groups every Sunday telling you what you think.
The Republicans and the Democrats conspire with one another, which they do.
There is a conspiracy by big business against American democracy.
We know that there was a conspiracy.
There was a conspiracy.
There was no conspiracy.
Was there a conspiracy?
Communist conspiracy directed out of Moscow.
The right-wing conspiracy.
Communist conspiracy is a deliberate and predictable plan of action to subvert the world.
Right-wing
conspiracy. It's an international criminal conspiracy.
Vast right-wing conspiracy.
Great conspiracy.
There are all these conspiracy theories.
Was there a conspiracy? I don't know.
Perhaps themselves even involved in the conspiracy.
There was
a conspiracy.
No evidence
of a conspiracy.
Anybody would have to be a fool nowadays to dismiss conspiracies.
Conspiracy theory.
Cockeyed conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory exists because there really is conspiracy.
But they never told a soul about it. In fact, they engaged in a vast conspiracy.
Since you get accused of being a conspiracy theorist, of being a paranoid.
The historical context of actual conspiracy.
A conspiracy of bad people.
As always happens at some point in a conspiracy. One night, Krasnetti got drunk in a honky-tonk and spilled the beans.
There was a conspiracy, and government was involved in it.
Conspiracy existing within the United States government.
There was a conspiracy.
A
conspiracy by the CIA.
The conspiracy of a few.
Dark, secretive, conspiratorial, evil.
Then it was certainly a deliberate conspiracy.
High-level conspiracy.
The do's and the don'ts and the rights and the wrongs of the various conspiracy theories that are good.
Possibility of a conspiracy.
In a moral sense, I think it was a conspiracy.
One conspiracy, that's all I'm talking about.
Full of speculation, conspiracy theories, and the like.
And what's going on here?
You began to wonder what was really happening in America. I mean, was there a vast conspiracy afoot?
You know, there could have been a conspiracy.
Do you think you're obsessed with conspiracy?
Conspiracy theory.
A conspiracy.
I'm afraid you'll catch me. I'm afraid you'll catch me.
A conspiracy would do the job nicely.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of your favorite Monday night show, Baseless Conspiracies. Sorry for that little mix-up earlier. My daughter is supposed to be sleeping. Normally she goes to bed at like 8:30 or 8 even. She's somehow still awake. She came down into the office like 5 minutes before the show started and completely threw me off. So I take no responsibility. I blame her entirely. But Zach, how's your night going?
My night's doing just fine, John. Just fine.
Well, that's good.
I remember those days, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's cute, but it's also like, go to bed. You have school. You're going to be waking me up at like 6 tomorrow. So what are you doing? But yeah, man, how's everything been? I missed last week's episode with you, so I feel like I haven't seen you in 2 weeks.
We basically haven't. So last week was great. Gordon and I had a really good time. Seemed like people really enjoyed the episode. And then on Wednesday, Brad and I, we did an aspect of 9/11, a number of aspects of 9/11. And then on Wednesday, Brad and I, again, did more aspects of 9/11. Yeah, we felt like 9/11 got kind of overshadowed because of the tragic events that took place in Utah.
Yeah, it definitely did. That was one of the things that definitely happened. Ghost probably would have been a better fit for tonight's episode. I don't know what you talked about last week, but I know tonight we're talking about something having to do with Israel, Israelis, Bibi Netanyahu.
Yes, largely we're going to be talking about the life and times of Bibi Netanyahu and how that sort of leads into events of today.
Yeah, it should be a fun little discussion. But before we get into that, and even before we do our sponsors, I wouldn't mind. You know what? Let's do our sponsors first, actually, and then we'll chat a little bit about the weekend. First up, we got Love Litters. These guys are awesome. Attention, all you Badlanders with purring pals and feathered friends. Say hello to Love Litters. 100% pure kiln-dried wood, free from chemicals and oh so kind to Mother Earth. No dust, no mess, and no toxins. Just a lightweight solution that's gentle on your wallet and even gentler in your home. Their biodegradable litter is crafted from wood destined for landfills, giving it a new purpose in your pet's life. Cats love it. Love Litter's astonishing formula works like magic to neutralize that notorious cat urine odor, keeping your home pine fresh and welcoming. And for bird lovers, it zaps moisture from bird droppings, crumbling them away, all while keeping your bird safe if they ingest it. Reptiles and critters too. Their mix is crafted to dilute the pine scent, ensuring those little lungs stay happy and healthy. Plus, every 30-pound bag of Love Litters will last up to 6 months, saving you some money. Transform your pet care routine today. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/litter and breathe easy with a litter that loves your pet as much as you do. That's badlandsmedia.tv/litter. And we also got Tamarack Gardens. Absolutely love these guys and their products. Swear by them. Introducing Tamarack Gardens handcrafted herbal remedies, teas, and skincare. Made with weeds, wildflowers, and wild harvested herbs in the Pacific Northwest. Their products will heal your skin, boost collagen, lighten dark spots, and slow aging. Plus, it's safe for babies, grandmas, and everyone in between. From salves for headaches, bug bites, and arthritis to supplements for liver and kidney health, they harness God's bounty for your health and to keep you out of the doctor's office. Family owned in North Idaho, Tamarack Gardens dermatologist recommended products support your body inside and out because your health deserves better. Visit tamarackgarden.com today, and with promo code Badlands, you'll get free shipping on orders over $35. It's tamarackgarden.com, promo code Badlands. All right, man. What do you think of the weekend? Yesterday, they had the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Obviously, I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched a couple of speeches. Really, I just watched Erica and Trump. Those are the only ones I was able to catch. And I watched them at like 1.5 or 2x speed, so didn't quite get the full experience. But I'm curious what you thought.
I mean, I thought it was a perfect send-off. You know, I mean, it was an incredible success. I mean, there was something like 300,000 people there. They had one whole stadium filled up, and then they had an overflow stadium that was filled up, and then they had another 100,000 people outside. It was heart-wrenching when Erica spoke. Tucker's speech was something else.
Fiery, yeah,
it was, and I thought it was highly appropriate, and a fitting analogy for what happened, and perhaps relevant to tonight's conversation. I don't know.
I would say highly relevant. Yeah,
highly relevant. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we watched the majority of it. I want to say that, you know, I mean, I had it on in the background when like Vance and Rubio spoke. I mean, I saw all of Tucker and pretty much everybody after that.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that stood out to me was Trump. He's never given a speech like this before at a memorial, and I was curious to see what version of Trump was going to show up. You know, because Trump has different
personas.
He gives different speeches depending on the audience and the reason he's given the speech or whatever. And I was just curious to see what we got. And it didn't feel like normal Trump, which was probably a good thing, because normal Trump probably wasn't fit for that moment. But it did feel off, like not in a conspiratorial way, not trying to read into it. It just didn't feel like, I don't know how to describe it. It almost felt, I don't know. I don't know the right word to describe it, but it was some campaign. It was some like genuine stories. Some of it was like completely irrelevant to what I think the memorial was as a whole. Like, I don't know. I just got a weird vibe from it, but not necessarily a bad way either. So that's why I'm having such a hard time describing it.
I felt like everyone felt the need to kind of to not simply like mourn, but more to celebrate. And President Trump kind of has this almost like a jovial, flippant nature, like when it comes to certain things, like, you know, how he flits back and forth between different subjects and stuff, and, you know, trying to keep the mood up. And I think that there was a maybe a responsibility to not be too dour, because Erica was obviously, like, you know, so sad. I mean, as expected, right? You know, but yeah, I mean, Lisa commented that, you know, Tucker, you know, his laughter during that speech, that seemed like, you know, gosh, maybe was that but I don't know that he can do it any other way, to be honest with you. You know, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think that overall it went over really well. Stephen Miller's speech was absolute fire.
I didn't get that one either.
Oh, bro, let me play a segment from it if I can.
Okay. While you're pulling it up, I need to grab my water. I left it upstairs.
Okay, you go ahead and do that. So, all right, guys. So if you were watching my show earlier, then you saw me play this. This is a sort of a synthwave remix of Stephen Miller's speech, and it's overlaid with some pretty incredible imagery. Okay. All right. So I was just telling the audience, I actually played this earlier on my show. Kind of a synthwave remix of Stephen Miller's speech. Can you hear me? You can't hear me.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Synthwave remix of Stephen Miller's speech combined with some pretty awesome imagery. This guy, National Revival, he's done some awesome videos in the past that I love. So here we go.
What they did to him, and shot him down.
You have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families.
Who remembers back in 2016? If you wore this hat on the streets of New York, it was open hunting season. If you wore this in 2021, they would come after you. And yet I saw something fundamental. It's fundamentally different and something change. And it goes to show that the good guys can win if we push hard enough. It goes to show that we can turn the symbols where they are trying to ostracize us into symbols of victory.
The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. And we will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes for which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion. You cannot defeat us, you cannot slow us, you cannot stop us, you cannot deter us. We will carry Charlie and Erica in our heart every single day and fight that much harder because of what you did to us. You have no idea. The dragon you have awakened, you have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic.
That's good.
Totally based. Now, just getting back to what Tucker said, and, again, it is highly relevant to what we're talking about tonight. I mean, making the analogy between, the Pharisees.
The video.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead and play it and then we'll do commentary.
Okay. What amazed me most about this, too, is how many people got upset over this when it's nothing he says here is.
No, it's historical fact.
It's just, exactly. It's historical fact. I mean, he does equate it to the Kirk thing, and it hasn't been proven necessarily that Israel killed or the Jews killed Kirk. But what he says here, again, historical fact. Let me share my screen.
And it actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about, what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem. And it actually reminds me of my favorite story.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. So, I mean, obviously, you know, the Pharisees wanted Jesus to stop talking. They wanted to remove him. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to destroy him. And the irony there is that they also immortalized him in the world itself, right? I mean, Jesus obviously lives forever, but this created a movement here on earth, and people will never forget the name Jesus Christ. Yep. And in the exact same way, you know, take out, you know, the Pharisees, let's just say, you know, power brokers, let's say people who were afraid of what Charlie was saying, you know, they decided that they wanted to kill him because they thought that they could shut him up. And in the exact same way, they have immortalized him, as Stephen Miller said. And I think it's highly relevant, you know, whether or not you want to subscribe to the idea that this was nation state directed, or perhaps directed by a highly compartmentalized group of people who hated Charlie for the things he was doing because he brought people together, because he was so reasonable. It doesn't really matter. It's the same application of the same concept. It's just 2,000 years apart or so.
Yeah, I thought it was good. And again, like I said, it's kind of amazing to me how many people get so upset about it, and the people that do get upset about it, it's the Zionists. Honestly, like
it is the Zionists, right?
And I think maybe that's a distinction we should discuss. And if I'm saying this wrong, let me know. But not all Jews are Zionists. Not all Zionists are
Correct.
Jews.
Yeah,
Zionists are the ones that want like the state of Israel. They want this, the what?
Ethnically clean state of Israel.
Yes, the Jewish state in Israel. That's not all Jews.
No.
And so when we talk about like the Jews or Israel and whatnot, we're not trying to like talk about the whole group. There's a specific group of people, and I think Bibi Netanyahu at the head of it. And this is the reason we're getting into this, guys, is because we're going to talk about Bibi quite a bit on tonight's show. So it's good you're in the chat, Ghost. And some of the nefarious things surrounding that specific group. And now, if that upsets you, maybe ask yourself why. I'm even noticing in the chat, like there's a lot of people that are being very judgmental, like John, you're not Christian enough. Ghost, you're not Christian enough. Like you need to be more on fire for Jesus, all these things. And I think it's that when people judge people like that over their, you know, like I feel like I'm a very spiritual and I have a very good relationship with Jesus. And I've said this before, but I don't talk about this stuff often because I'm not the type to shove it down anybody's throat. I'm never going to be that type of person. I'm not a preacher.
You're not an evangelist.
Yeah, I'm not an evangelist. I'm not a preacher. That's not my calling. And I feel like I need to live through my actions. And so when people do that, like there are Bible quotes about not judging, like worry about the speck in your, or don't worry about the speck in your neighbor's eye, worry about the log in your own. Like, what the hell are you guys doing? Here for it, John, says Ghost. Awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I talk about my relationship with Christ exactly as much as I feel called to. Okay, no more, no less. And I'm not going to judge anybody else for the amount of time that they want to spend on it or the amount of conversations they want to have on it, because I do feel like it's a personal thing. And, you know, but at the same time, it is indelibly linked to my identity. So I couldn't live a life where I didn't admit what I believe or I didn't admit how I feel. And I mean, that's just the same as it is for everything. You know, I mean, like you have all of these, you know, these different things that come together to create who you are as a person, you know, ultimately coming from one source. And, you know, here you are, you're living your life, and everyone is called to live their life in just a little bit differently. But I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, it is the sum total of those moments when you die which determine what the quality and the impact of your life was upon this earth. And that really is, what I focus on. And, the point that you made, John, I've been making this for years, okay? Because, a long time ago, people were very upset with me that I would say anything critical about, anything related to Israel. And, my point has always been, the government of Israel is not the sum total of the Jewish people, just as the government of the United States is not the sum total of the people of the United States. It is applicable no matter what nation you go to. The deep state is the deep state, and whether they're the deep state in the Middle East or the deep state in North America or the deep state in Europe, it's all the deep state. We've got this like overarching umbrella of the elites who, even amongst themselves, they have their own goals and their own nefarious whims that they are following up on. And the same is true for the people of these 50 United States. I mean, you can go from North Carolina to Texas to California, and the vibe is going to be very, very different. You're not going to have homogeneity of thought or opinion.
That's a feature, not a bug.
Yes, exactly. And so it's like if we were to go to South or Central America, any nation where the Central Intelligence Agency has overthrown a democratically elected government and helped to install an autocrat or an authoritarian or a dictator, okay? The people of that country, some of them might look and say, Americans, I hate them because they came here, they took part in a massacre that ended up wiping out my family. We were part of the political opposition, and then somebody else was put in power, and now my life was destroyed. But just as many people might say, you know what, I understand that the Americans who came here to help raise up this authoritarian regime are not the same as the people that you're just going to see walking down the street in Daytona Beach or Fargo, North Dakota.
Bismarck, North Dakota.
Bismarck, North Dakota. So the criticism of an individual like Benjamin Netanyahu is not the criticism of an entire nation of people, because, you are going to have plenty of Jews who do not agree with the ultimate goals of Zionism. Now, Netanyahu's father was not one of them. And I think that certainly helps inform Benjamin Netanyahu's path that he's on today.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this. I'm curious to know. I mean, I have a very superficial knowledge of, with most of the conspiracies we talk about, but this one specifically. And so I'm excited to kind of go down this rabbit hole. I've done a little research into it, leave most of it to Ghost, honestly. Even on my show, when I talk about Israel and stuff, I'm like, this is my very superficial thoughts. If you want more information, I would go watch Ghost show. But let's dig into it.
Ghost is a font of knowledge. Now, so you've got Lisa says, I am Jewish. And so you've obviously got, Jews that do not believe in Jesus as the Savior. And then you've got Messianic Jews. Two different sects of people. You've got Semitic Jews. You've got European Jews.
Lisa's the one that told me I'm not on fire enough for Jesus.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, people are different everywhere you go. And criticism of one group of people within another group of people are not criticism for everybody. But this is specifically about Benjamin Netanyahu and perhaps some other elements of the modern Israeli government, which are not the same as elements of past Israeli governments. Okay, so I found this article over the weekend when I decided that I really wanted to start digging on Netanyahu. And actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I had another... I'll find it later in the show because I think it's more appropriate for later in the show. But there's definitely a clip that I want to play. But okay, so I found this article, and it's from the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs from October of 1996. And this was, Benjamin Netanyahu became political in like the late 70s. He was involved in I think it was called Black Sunday. It was like a terrorist, I think must have been the Palestinian Liberation Organization at that time. But he was in
Netanyahu was part of that?
Netanyahu. Well, he was IDF, and his brother was as well. And
what was it called?
I think it's called Black Sunday. Hold on. I actually have it referenced here. Okay. So, the hijackers in Entebbe in 1976. There was a hijacking in Entebbe. I believe they made a movie. I think Steven Spielberg made a movie about this. It might have been a different one, but he and his brother Jonathan were both involved in the effort to essentially take out the terrorists and free the hostages. And Netanyahu was shot and wounded. One of his compatriots shot the terrorist woman that he was like grappling with. The bullet went through her and then went into his arm, and his brother actually lost his life. Oh, wow. And that's what kicked off Benjamin Netanyahu's political, foray. Now, his father was already a political figure and highly controversial figure. But, Netanyahu had said later on that he didn't intend to go into politics, but it was the death of his brother that really pushed him into it, because he always thought that his brother was going to do that. Now, that might just be part of the lore, right? To make it look like, he's got this sympathetic story. I'm only here because of my brother. I want to keep the nation safe because of what happened to my brother. But if we take a look here at this article, so
he doesn't look much different from 1996, by the way.
I don't know if this picture is from then. I would say probably not, because I have a video of Netanyahu, which is before 9/11, and he definitely has a lot more hair. So the website looks like it's been updated, and it wouldn't surprise me if they put a modern picture in there as well. All right. So Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, he was prime minister in 1996. He's been elected 6 different times, and he actually grew up for a formative portion of his years here in the United States. Went kind of back and forth between Israel and the U.S. So went up to first grade in Israel, second and third grade in the United States, went back to Jerusalem for fourth grade, and then high school in suburban Philadelphia. Then he went and did his military service, and he came back to America and got a BA and an MA at MIT. And he held Yes. And he held dual citizenship that entire time, which allowed him obviously to go back and forth between the countries. Also, it afforded him the ability to get federal student loans to cover his cost of schooling while he was at MIT. And
I don't agree with that. I don't think if you don't have sole citizenship in this country, you should not get a loan from the federal government.
I am not in favor of dual citizenship being a thing basically anywhere.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I feel like it's a recipe for trouble. And I don't care what country it is. I feel like when you are asked to proclaim loyalties to more than one country, you are obviously splitting the hair on that loyalty. I mean, like, part of your loyalty is going to be one place, part of your loyalty is going to be the other place. So Netanyahu, because he is an American citizen, he does have a social security number. He's got a credit file, and he's got a whole bunch of other files that are going to be on record with a variety of different U.S. government offices. However, his files are different, very different, and it's not simply because he's a dual citizen. There is some really strange things that have yet to be addressed. Well, actually, they have been hand-waved, but they haven't truly been explained. So this was first discovered by an Israeli newspaper. It was a weekly journal called Hair, HA''IR. And they were looking into Netanyahu because he was running to become the prime minister. So they found 4 requests for credit that all appear in the U.S. With his social security number, which his official social security number is 02364537. Here's where it gets. What's that?
How is that public?
Well, I don't know. It just is, but it was publicly released, and might have something to do with the fact. I mean, we knew Barack Obama's social security number. Usually when people are in positions of leadership like that, a little bit more information about them comes out.
So can I go get a loan with that social security number, you think?
Well, you might be able to, because there are 4 different names that are attached to that social security number. And that's what's weird. So you've got Benjamin Netanyahu, okay, which is his full legal name. You got Benjamin Netai. You've also got John J. Sullivan and John J. Sullivan Jr. So essentially you've got one man and 4 different names. How strange is that, John? I mean, if you or I had different names attached to our social security number and our credit file, one might think that perhaps there was maybe some fraud going on, or
yeah, that's fishy,
or maybe some intelligence ties.
Or actually, let me rephrase that's not kosher.
All right, so Benjamin Netanyahu is the name that he was born with. And in June 1973, that's when he began at MIT. And he submitted a petition to the Boston court at that time seeking to change his name from Netanyahu to Netai, because he said, I prefer a shorter name. That was what he wrote on the request form. So that explains the Netai and the Netanyahu. So that was actually approved. And he was granted the ability to change his name while he was at MIT. But those last 2 names, John J. Sullivan and John J. Sullivan Jr., are not as easy to explain. There are addresses that are attached to those names. Those are allegedly people who live somewhere in Malibu, California, but those addresses actually don't exist in Malibu, California. So they're names that are not his with addresses that don't exist. And begs the question, who the hell is John J. Sullivan and John J. Sullivan Jr.?
Somebody in the chat's pointing out that John Sullivan was the name of that Antifa guy from J6.
Yes, it was. I was going to bring that up, but might as well talk about it now. Now, John Sullivan is not a particularly uncommon name, right? I mean, like, I feel like it's kind of, just generic. But I don't know how many John J. Sullivans there are. All right, so the authors for hire, they attempted to figure out exactly who these people really were and why their names would be associated with Benjamin Netanyahu's credit file. So they got a copy of his credit account. This credit account, I'm sure everybody here has, access to their credit. I am obsessed with it. I'm able to get my credit over 800 and doing everything I can to keep it there so that if I need a loan, then I can get the lowest interest rate possible. But, you use it for everything. I mean, they use it for insurance. They use it for bank accounts, any loans, credit cards, all of that. But when they got the credit report, the file was totally empty, like as if Netanyahu never had any debt. But we know that he took out loans to go to MIT. So at a minimum, and I can tell you that because I have student loans I'm still paying off, those student loans are on your credit report. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And even more than that, every time you have been extended credit, that is on your credit report. And there's all sorts of information that should be on there. But it was totally empty. Like he had no debt. He had never taken a loan. He had always paid his bills up front and in cash. Now, how strange is that? I mean, I try to pay for things in cash as much as I can, but because I want to maintain that credit score, I still use a credit card for select purchases on a monthly basis. And I have a loan on my house. I have a loan on my car. So I don't know many people who always pay for things in cash.
But I mean, he is a dual citizen. Like, does your credit score transfer to other countries?
Well, the credit score is attached to his social security number.
Yeah. If he's primarily going to be a citizen of a different country, not the United States, doesn't matter if he has a credit score in the United States.
Well, I mean, it may not matter for him, but I mean, the question then becomes, where the hell did he get all the cash? Okay.
Yeah, that is certainly a great question.
Yeah. Where is all the money coming from? So after that, the authors of the original article, they went and tried to examine Netanyahu's social security file. This one they were not able to get, but they did find out that Netanyahu's file has a different classification than your average American citizen, even more than your average dual American citizen. So when they requested access to it, they were denied access, not simply because of the 1974 Privacy Act, which would be what you would normally expect, but because the file had a confidential classification. Now, this is where it really spices up, because this type of classification only applies to a couple different types of people, 5 categories of people. And that's people who work for one of 3 federal agencies, either the FBI, the CIA, or the IRS, or for people who are considered to be terrorists or criminals. And considering it's unlikely that Netanyahu fits into the terrorist or criminal category, or that he worked for the IRS, it seems a lot more likely that he would have been on the payroll of one of our preeminent security agencies like the CIA or the FBI.
Did these people like put any of their sources, or are we just taking their word for it?
Everything was published when it was initially put out, and again, it was put out in an Israeli magazine. Okay,
This was
published. Yeah, this was published in Israel for the benefit of the Israeli people because they were going to be voting to elect Benjamin Netanyahu. All right. So, when he, excuse me, in 1982, he was working as a furniture salesman. And he left that job. This is also strange because I'm sorry, I missed this part. So if you're in Israel and you're running for the Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament, you're no longer able to hold that dual citizenship. So Netanyahu publicly stated that in 1982 he gave up that citizenship and he became a solely an Israeli citizen. And people have asked for proof that actually happened, but he has refused to grant access to the files in the United States Embassy in Tel Aviv, which would prove that. Now, that would have been where he went and essentially proclaimed that he no longer wished to be a citizen of the United States. And what's also interesting is that even though he's no longer a citizen of the United States, the status of his files in the United States, meaning that confidential status, has not changed. So the reason being, according to U.S. law, the United States still considered him, at least in 1996, to be a dual citizen. And that may become, a problem for him if people want to push that. But I mean, at this point, it's 2025 and he's been in power for so many years.
I wonder if anybody's tried to like get access to the Social Security files since this.
Very, very possibly. I did find some later articles which were published more recently, which cite much of this information, and we're just going to take a look at it in a little bit. But I wanted to go back to the primary source first. Okay, so in 1982, before he gave up his U.S. citizenship, he was working as a furniture salesman. And he left that job to immediately start working at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. And then within 14 years, he became prime minister of Israel. So that's a meteoric rise to power. Yeah. Very, very quick. And I mean, I also find it a little strange that he got an MA and an MS at MIT and then chose to go work at a furniture store before going to work for the Israeli embassy as some type of policy advisor.
Yeah, it sounds like a front for something.
Yes, yeah, it definitely does. Okay. So in considering, what Netanyahu was looking to accomplish, there is some considerations to look into because Netanyahu has a father which has some really interesting background, and I think that it informs the policies that he is striving for today. So let me share this. So the Jerusalem Post, after Hayer had published that original article, they responded July 9th, 1996. And this is, of course, after he has been elected prime minister. And they say that Netanyahu's Social Security file includes no references to individuals other than family members, and that's according to the Jerusalem Post. This contradicts stories first published in the Tel Aviv Weekly Hayer, which claimed that the file included John J. Sullivan and John J. Sullivan Jr. So the Jerusalem Post alleges to have located the Sullivans in California, and they claim to have no connection to Netanyahu, and they also claim to have different Social Security numbers. Now, they say indications are that the only time Netanyahu and the Sullivans appear together is on a routine credit file resulting from clerical error or possible fraud. So the story began in that article in Hayer on June 21st. asserting that the Social Security file was marked confidential. Hayer also claimed that the names Netanyahu, Naite, Sullivan, and Sullivan all appear in Netanyahu's file and hold the same Social Security number. Hayer inferred, but provided no evidence, that Netanyahu had, for some reason, created false identities. Well, I mean, other than the fact that all 4 of these names appear with the same Social Security number on the credit report. I mean, if false identities were being used, short of finding a passport or a driver's license with Netanyahu's face and then a John J. Sullivan name, I mean, I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So they also claim that his Social Security file has not been marked confidential. All Social Security files are closed and confidential. So this is true. Your Social Security file is closed and confidential. People can't just gain access to it. But as alluded to in Hayer, that's because of a law that was passed in 1974. But the reasoning they were given is over and above that. Now, a federal employee did agree to read the Netanyahu file and report his findings to private detective Steve Rambam, who was employed by an interested party. The results are that the name Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't even know why it's spelled incorrectly, is the sole holder of Social Security number that we learned before. There is a reference to Netanyahu's second wife, Fleur H. Netanyahu, and apparently a cross-reference to his brother and sister-in-law, Edo and Daphne Netanyahu. The Sullivans do not appear.
How convenient that they just so happen to get some federal employee who illegally looked into the file and reported it to the guy who is an interested party.
Yes.
And give them exactly the thing that debunks the previous article written about him. But nobody can even look into it themselves to check because it's illegal to do so.
Yeah, no, it's totally impossible. And it's far too convenient. And whoever this unnamed federal employee is committed a crime by doing this. So, I don't know that how likely it is that would have happened. Okay, so Netanyahu obviously admitted to using that simpler name in the years that he lived in the U.S., but they also claim that name does not appear in his Social Security file, even though Hayer said that it did. The only document on which the names Sullivan and Netanyahu appear together is on a credit rating report prepared by TransUnion and TRW credit unions. So if it's coming from a credit union account, then that might indicate that Sullivan and Netanyahu perhaps held a joint account for some reason. But if they did hold a joint account for some reason, then, that means that they knew each other, because you don't just have a joint account with somebody that you don't know. And they both claim to have no knowledge of each other. And for the Social Security number to be connected, then obviously there was some usage of the name with the Social Security number. Obviously, we don't know the context of it, but it certainly is interesting.
Yeah.
So Rambam, who has appeared as an expert witness at trials involving fraud, explains that the reports in question are either the result of clerical error or deception. 40% of credit reports include errors. In 1996, Netanyahu's TransUnion records were accessed several times within a short period, presumably by the same person. I would gather that the 4 accesses were likely the people who wrote the last article. Earlier this month, Mariv contacted Sullivan by telephone. He denied any link to Netanyahu and said, "I'm an American citizen, alive and well. I have no connection to the Israeli prime minister." And he said that he was so afraid that fraud was being committed, he refused to disclose his Social Security number. So he won't confirm any additional information. You'll also note that they don't mention anything about the address, which the last people found to simply not exist. So they reached him on a telephone number. But following the publication of the Hayer story, questions were raised in the Knesset alleging that Netanyahu had, for some reason, been using the name Sullivan as an alias for unknown activities while living in the U.S. MK Tamer Gazansky even suggested that Netanyahu might have used the names as a cover to receive payments as an informant for the CIA, which to me sounds like the most likely possible scenario.
I'm going to look these people up on Truth Finder.
All right. And then they go on to give a little bit more information about the Sullivans. John J. Sullivan and John J. Sullivan Jr. are real people living in Northern California. The senior Sullivan lives with his wife, Juliana, whose name also appears on the credit union reports. The Sullivans have 2 registered addresses. They rent a home and live in Belmont, California. They also have a home which they rent out at Redwood, California, and John J. Sullivan is their son. All right. So the whole thing is obviously very convoluted. And considering how long ago this was, I mean, this is 30 years ago now that this article came out, and nothing has been able to derail Benjamin Netanyahu's rise to power. Take a look at this. This is Benjamin Netanyahu's father.
Yes. That's his dad?
That's his dad. His name is Ben Zion Milikowski. Milikowski.
Ben Zion?
Ben Zion, yes.
Ben Zion.
Ben Zion Milikowski.
Zion.
Yes, Ben Zion. Benzion, okay?
Yeah,
so Milikowski is Netanyahu's original last name, okay? So the family changed it to Netanyahu. Well, actually, Benjamin Netanyahu changed it to, or maybe they did it when he was born, but they wanted him to sound more Jewish, okay? Milikowski is a Polish name, and that's where his father is from. He's from Warsaw. He was the executive secretary for Vladimir Jabotinsky, who is the founder of revisionist Zionism. And guess what revisionist Zionism calls for? The military conquest of all Palestine and the expulsion of the non-Jewish population. So his son Bibi has, I would say it's quite obvious, furthered the goals of revisionist Zionism. And the name, again, Netanyahu, is not their real last names. So like a lot of immigrants who came from Poland and Russia, the Milikowski family changed their name when they came to Palestine in the 1920s. Shimon Peres did the same thing. Peres was born Simon Persky, also in Poland. And the Milikowskis and Perskys of Poland are essentially colonists that settled in Palestine back then in the 1920s. So there is a lot of people who, you know, they're always talking about anti-Semitism, right? I mean, that's like the ultimate criticism to shut down any criticism of Israel or the choices that are made by the Israeli government. Okay, like you're an anti-Semite. We're seeing a lot of that right now.
Yep.
Okay, like Tucker's speech yesterday, Laura Loomer was like, you know, freaking out about the Jew hatred. I mean, I saw a lot of people.
Why do people follow her, by the way? Like, where did she come from? What does she do? What did she do?
Well, she was initially undercover for Project Veritas. She started with Project Veritas back in the day. Yeah.
Man, I wish she would have stayed undercover.
And then she went on and she branched out. You know, I think that honestly, a lot of the people that we see that are like the huge names and they have massive reach. I just, it's always been my sense that a lot of those people are funded, right?
Well, not just funded, but they're allowed to get that reach. Like this
yeah.
It doesn't make sense. The algorithms that we see online, and I talked about this a lot today on my show, because with TikTok coming to the United States and Oracle is purchasing it. The article that I read, it said that Oracle, along with input from the government, are going to be the ones that are handling and retraining the TikTok algorithm.
Yes, I saw.
Why do we have algorithms at all? But it's all the same people that are going to get promoted.
Because the algorithm is designed to addict you. Okay, Lisa just said in the chat that Laura Loomer did things before Project Veritas. That was the first thing that I was aware of that she did. So, you know, if anybody wants to tell me what Laura did, how Laura started out, I'm totally willing to hear. I mean, I had her on my show years ago.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. When I was on YouTube. She came on my show when I was on YouTube. No, she was already, you know, pretty big. But, I mean, you know, she's like kind of she's always had like a shocking affect. Like she would go out and she would, you know, film people and she'd do kind of like guerrilla journalism and stuff. And, you know, I think that there's plenty that she does that has value. But I mean, on this one issue, she's part of that group of people that says that you can't criticize Israel. Like if you criticize Israel, then you are a Jew hater and you are a Palestinian apologist. You're a Hamas supporter. You're owned by Qatar. And I feel like all of those things are red herrings, which are exclusively designed to stop people from criticizing Israel.
It's
and
a
I think
leftist tactic too. That's what the left does with everything.
Yes, it definitely is. And and there's obviously a lot of people now who are questioning the relationship between Israel and the United States. And it's I mean, I don't think that any other nation should have an outside amount of control here in our country. I don't like it. I don't think that the United States should have an outside level of control in anybody else's country.
It's not America first.
No, it's not.
By the way, can I ask, what was the middle name of the Sullivans? Do you remember?
J-A-Y.
Okay. I'm just doing some digging.
But okay, so but the origin of the word Semitic, I mean, it's people who are from that particular area of the world in the Middle East, the Semitic peoples, and European people are not Semitic. And I understand that there is like a racial component like Ashkenazi, and then also like Sephardic Jews, and Sephardic and Semitic are basically the same if I'm, not oversimplifying it. But they are two distinct genetic populations. And largely speaking, the Zionists are the Ashkenazi population. And have you ever seen like people like just like Jewish citizens walking down the street like abusing Christian missionaries? Like it's pretty shocking. I
don't think I have.
Okay, so let me.
If I'm being honest, like that should just. I typically try to avoid the entire Israel debate, the Jewish discussion with all that stuff, because to me it's just all so annoying. Like all of it, everybody's just like yelling at each other online over this thing. It's like both sides here are a psyop.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think that this is an important video to see, just because I feel like it's not going to be everybody's experience. I mean, I've talked to plenty of people who have gone to Israel. I mean, Charlie said it himself, I always had thought, like the idea of going to Israel would just be amazing, right? I mean, to walk in Jesus's steps and to see all these things from the Bible. I mean, that would just be so cool. But there are people who do not want anyone else but Jewish people there, and they will let you know that when you're walking down the street. I have seen countless videos of people being spat on or people being hit, and there's this like air of entitlement among the people who are committing those acts. Like, this is our country, we don't want you here, and we want you to leave. They don't want to hear people talking, preaching the gospel or anything like that.
If I'm being honest, again, that's how I feel about illegal immigrants in our country.
Well, yeah, totally. I understand, but these people are tourists, right? They're visitors. They're
not taking our gerbs.
Yeah, they're not taking our gerbs. Yes.
I haven't even looked at the chat yet. I'm almost afraid to.
Here it is. I found it. Let me.
Geomeister, has this guy never met a Jew?
Say who?
Somebody in the chat says, "Has this guy never met a Jew?" I'm not sure if they're talking about me or you.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about.
Probably me.
I mean,
we don't have a ton of Jews in North Dakota, if I'm being honest. But yes, I have met a few Jews.
Okay. So.
Elohim love Israel. Praise God. God love Israel. May God have shalom Israel. And it's all speak. No.
You got the name of Yeshua, right?
Whoa.
Jeez. He slapped my face.
Wow.
He slapped my face. Jewish people, you're really breaking my heart.
What is she trying to do here?
She's trying to show solidarity with the Jewish people, and obviously the people that are coming across her don't want her to be there. Now, again, I mean, that's not the universal experience of anybody going there. But I mean, I think it's pretty shocking. I mean, like if if people were walking down the streets of the United States and they were visiting our country and saying, I love America, you know, I mean, I just feel like you wouldn't see people spitting on them and telling them to get the hell out. I mean, you really don't even see that with illegal aliens. People might say, if you're not supposed to be here, then go ahead and leave. But I mean, nobody's like, physically assaulting people. So
yeah, if anything, the illegal immigrants are physically assaulting us.
Exactly. And I think Americans have been far too kind, when it comes down to it.
By the way, I did look it up just now, and there are approximately 910 Jews in North Dakota. That's it.
910. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Is that like one community, or is that spread throughout?
No idea. It just says in North Dakota. This figure is among the lowest Jewish populations for any state in the U.S.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Since everybody cared about the North Dakota Jewish population. Everybody's really curious.
So do you remember in Brad's, in Codex 9/11, how Brad had talked about Netanyahu's prediction for the World Trade Center? When Netanyahu said, oh, wow, well, the video is gone now, but I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you will see is militant Islam bringing down the World Trade Center. That was from his 1995 book, Fighting Terrorism. And, I mean, that's not like a huge an outsized prediction. I mean, there was an attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. Some might say that was sort of a practice run, right?
You send me this link. I'm going to see if we can find that video.
Yeah. If you just search, well, here, I'll send to you. You can pull search terms from that. Okay. And there you go. Okay. So that's not like all of that crazy that would happen. Okay. BB, I hope you're watching. Totally unrelated to tonight's subject. If you could please ask BB to clarify how to send him our shipping info for his book. I can actually do that for you right now. So the way that crowdfunding works is that you will receive a communication from the campaign itself. And when it is approaching time for the books to be sent, they're going to send you an email requesting you to verify your shipping information. There is a strong possibility that you would have already given your shipping information at the time that you signed up for Kickstarter and made your account, but you will have to confirm it. And it might come from an email related to Kickstarter, or it might be something related to a branding called Backer Kit. But you'll be getting an email from them. And I'm certain that BB will probably announce on air when it's time for the shipping to actually start to go out. Okay. So if we go back to 9/11, obviously there was also the presence of Jewish influence in the creation of the Project for a New American Century. That was the think tank that put out the paper essentially calling for a new Pearl Harbor so that we could get America unified behind the war on terror. And at the time of 9/11, many Israelis celebrated because they saw that as the United States being drug into their fight against radical Islamic terrorism, or their fight against terror in the Middle East. Obviously, we had the dancing Israelis on 9/11. They worked for the shipping company, which the Urban Moving Systems. When the FBI went to Urban Moving Systems after they identified the dancing Israelis and where they worked, the place had already been cleared out. All of the computers had been taken. The office was completely abandoned in the wake of 9/11, and those people just left. Now, they eventually were able to confirm that several of the dancing Israelis directly had ties to Mossad. Okay, totally incontrovertible, and it's been proven at this point. So I don't think that it is too big of a stretch to suggest that elements within the Israeli government would have celebrated the advancement of the United States into the war on terror bringing us as two nations, aligned against Islamo-fascism together so that we could fight on the same playing field. Obviously,
Makes sense.
yeah, I mean, it just, common interests and common wars, right? I mean, Israel is a small country. They do rely on the United States, or they have for many, many years, in terms of weaponry and money, funding. I mean, all kinds of things. The diplomacy that comes along with being an ally of the United States is a lot of global capital.
I got that video.
I was getting this question.
Okay.
In the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center. I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
Yes. So again, if there was foreknowledge and nothing was done to stop it, then certainly that would benefit the aims of Netanyahu. In 2002, he came to Congress and he presented like a wish list, like 30 things that he wanted to happen in the world, and they hoped the United States would help with. War with Iran was one of them. And he obviously, I think that he was, welcoming the United States getting involved in the war on terror. But did you know that in 1990, Netanyahu was also one of the purveyors of the weapons of mass destruction lie? Yeah. Take a listen to this.
Is really, how do we ensure that these weapons of destruction, these missiles, these chemical weapons, the nuclear program that is fast accelerating in Iraq, that these do not pose a threat in the aftermath of the crisis, assuming it gets out of Kuwait? This is an issue for the entire international community. And again, if this can be done by peaceful means, we support it.
How concerned are you, sir, about the scheduled face-to-face meetings involving President Bush, Saddam Hussein, and their top advisor?
We listen, Brian, to the assurances coming from President Bush, the clear-cut statements that I heard yesterday on TV here from Secretary Baker. We understand that the U.S. is firm on its policy, and again, if they can achieve their policy by this means, we have obviously no objection.
You have no...
Okay, so this is 1990, and at that time he would have been in the Knesset. There was... okay, so when he came to power, when he first was elected to the Knesset, he heavily lobbied the United States to get involved with what Israel was doing, and he actually put together in 1979 an organization. It basically was to honor his brother, and he didn't invite President Reagan when Reagan and Bush came to power. He invited George H.W. Bush, and George H.W. Bush obviously had just left the Central Intelligence Agency.
Yeah.
And during the Reagan administration, Netanyahu was banned from the State Department and the White House and a bunch of other places of power in Washington, D.C., because he was so persistent in trying to get the United States on board with helping Israel achieve their goals. And the United States wasn't interested in that. But you can see there in 1990, he's pushing the weapons of mass destruction lie. And then, of course, we took out Saddam Hussein later on with Bush 2, and that weapons of mass destruction lie persisted. Bibi was forced out of power eventually, and then was reelected in 2022 to become Prime Minister of Israel again. And this would have been the highest voter turnout in Israel since 1999. So it was a big election. and people
I
were.
mean, that means there's fraud, in my opinion.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Yeah. And since coming back into power, Benjamin Netanyahu, even before he came back into power, like he was involved in a number of trials. He was accused of massive levels of corruption. He was a defendant in criminal trials where he was charged with fraud, bribery, and breach of trust. Now, those criminal trials have to do with a telecommunications company called Bezek. The regulator of Bezek was the Ministry of Communications. Benjamin Netanyahu was the head of the Ministry of Communications, and he was also in control of two of the largest newspapers in Israel. They were called Yedioth Ahronoth and Israel Hayam. So in one of these cases, it's labeled Case 1000. Netanyahu was charged with receiving approximately $200,000 in bribes while he was the Minister of Communications. Guess who he received it from? It's a name we've talked about before, Arnon Milchan. You remember Arnon Milchan?
Don't off the top of my head, but I bet once you remind me.
He's a Israeli spy who became a Hollywood producer here in the United States, and he produced a whole bunch of films. And I believe that he did a couple of superhero films. I believe that, yeah, there he is. Arnon Milchan.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. 12 Years a Slave.
JFK,
The Revenant.
JFK.
The Big Short. I love The Big Short.
Yeah, it's good. LA Confidential. The Revenant is some good movies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely doing some good movies. But Arnon Milchan allegedly gave him $200,000. Arnon Milchan was also involved in stealing nuclear secrets from the United States to give them to Israel. Oh, and he admitted it. Yeah, totally admitted it.
That's naughty.
Yeah, he's been living here for like the last 40 years.
Arms dealers, intelligence activities was sparked after an indictment of Richard Kelly Smith, an aerospace executive who had made illegal shipments of Krytrons, which could be used as nuclear weapons triggers, through one of Milchan's companies. It's remained largely in the category of rumor until biographers Meir Dorn and Joseph Gelman wrote a controversial unauthorized biography of Milchan, which was published in 2011. Crazy.
Yeah. So, interesting connections all around with Milchan.
And he confirmed it later. That's right.
Yep. All right. So, in Case 1000, he was accused of receiving about $200,000 from Arnon Milchan. He also accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in cigars and champagne. And it's funny because I remember Bibi like interviewed about this and kind of characterizing it as, they're saying I'm corrupt because I received some gifts. It's not a big deal. It's just a couple of gifts, some cigars, some champagne. Okay, so you get a box of Cubans from somebody or maybe a bottle of champagne. Okay, that's like nothing. But hundreds of thousands of dollars of cigars and champagne. Now, also, I guess that the guy who was bribing him, I don't know if this was Arnon Milchan or if this was somebody else that was bribing him. He is alleged to have assaulted him on 3 separate occasions. And the second case, Case 2000, Netanyahu was charged with fraud and breach of trust. I guess he conspired with a Israeli press baron by the name of Arnon Moses, charged with attempted bribery so that they could enact laws that would limit the circulation of a rival newspaper. And the trade-off for that was that Netanyahu would receive favorable press in Arnon Moses's publications. So he controls the 2 largest newspapers, and of course they're going to give him good press. And then you've got another, like say like a Rupert Murdoch style person who he has an agreement with to also give him good press, and then he artificially destroys the competition for him so that he can't get bad press anywhere else. And then you got Case 4000, where again Netanyahu was charged with bribery. In this case, he conspired with communication mogul by the name of Shaul Elovitch. Elovitch is also charged with bribery to promulgate regulations to benefit the other criminals' business interests, again, in exchange for more favorable coverage of his illegal regime. You see, all of this begins essentially as he is making his bid to once again become prime minister of Israel. And Israel's not a big country, right? If you are getting favorable press from every single media outlet, then the chances are pretty good you can, maybe organically rise to power once again, even though people were done with him after he left office previously.
So he was paying people to give him favorable coverage.
Oh, he was trading regulations, trading favorable regulations, official decisions by the Israeli government to prop up the people that were conspiring with him and then destroy those who weren't.
Gotcha. Crazy.
Okay, and then you've got another guy that he was associated with. This is outside of Israel. James Packer. James Packer is another press baron. He's got media empire worldwide. James Packer, I guess, is somebody who has a penchant for fistfights. He's been accused of bribery, rape, and sexual extortion. Then you've got many other smaller infractions that come along with it. But Benjamin Netanyahu had all kinds of various scandals that surrounded him. And then, he went on trial. There were, I believe that he was found not guilty of everything, but they did end up convicting his wife. Let's see. So, let me jump to, this is a good one. Okay. So F.W. de Klerk was the leader of South Africa, which is another apartheid state, they will say, back when apartheid existed. And as the president of South Africa, he and Benjamin Netanyahu had a particular connection because he was prime minister of Israel. And during the 1980s, they worked together behind the scenes, creating something called Project Hammer. So there was a series of banks that were teetering on the brink of financial crisis: HSBC, Citibank, Chase Manhattan, and the Bank of New York. And Project Hammer was this plan aiming to harness South Africa's mineral reserves, mostly gold and diamonds there. And they would use that as collateral to pump money into these financial institutions and make them solvent. So the world was currently looking at South Africa because they had a convention for a democratic South Africa, which was essentially the end of apartheid. And while that was happening, F.W. de Klerk, with the help of Netanyahu, was moving $4 trillion in gold from the government vaults in South Africa. They were funneling it through Citibank, and then finally it ended up in New York, and it was obviously a very large sum of money, but it was done with the help of Israel and the Federal Reserve here in the United States.
Interesting. That kind of reminds me of didn't at the beginning of the year we have a huge flow of gold from the Bank of London to the United States, to
Bank
the
of London, but I believe Germany as well. There were a number of different European banks that were moving money here. Yeah. But yes, thought that was pretty interesting.
Definitely is.
So de Klerk was the leader of the National Party in South Africa. And they also worked together to move not only the gold, but a lot of diamonds that they also pumped into struggling U.S. banks at the time. And sources suggest that there were external influences from Israel and other international entities that were guiding de Klerk to do this. He was not particularly popular at this time. He was kind of seen as this, the face of this racist regime. And by transferring all of these assets, he was kind of shoring up his goodwill in other places around the world. And South Africa was pretty stable up until the moment that that apartheid ended. And then when apartheid ended, and turns out they didn't have any gold or diamond reserves, everything kind of fell apart there very slowly. But so Nelson Mandela came into power with the end of apartheid. He got a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
And I guess that Nobel Prize was awarded to both Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk. This led into basically de Klerk kind of overseeing the transformational period between the end of apartheid and the transfer of power to Nelson Mandela. And there was, a series of shady financial transactions that continued to take place that Israel was involved in. Now, we all know that Israel has a lot of money, right? And
a few bucks, I've heard.
That's just like, one example of it. But let me now take you to modern day, because this is where Charlie Kirk comes in. And this has been something that a lot of people have talked about, and I feel like it has to be discussed. So The Gray Zone is a publication from Max Blumenthal. First of all, Max Blumenthal is not a conservative. Yeah, he's like a radical leftist. And I think there's a strong possibility that, everything he writes is eyed with like destabilizing, ultimately a conservative culture here in America. And his wife was also just recently indicted for like being a spy for South Korea or something like that.
For real?
For real. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't like Max Bloom. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that might have been Max Boot. Now that I think about it, hold on. Let me just fact check myself. Max Boot wife.
Yeah, Max Boot's wife is
okay. All right. So, but everything else that I said about Max Blumenthal still stands. He's still a leftist. All right. But what's important about this article? Okay. So I'm sure you remember that a month before Charlie Kirk was murdered, Harrison Smith posted on X, Charlie is afraid that if he turns against Israel, that they're going to kill him. He said, Harrison said that he was informed by a member of Kirk's entourage, like a friend of his. All right. So essentially in this article, Max Blumenthal confirms that, but from someone else. Okay. This is not the same source. And he says that a Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israeli influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. And the source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Did you hear about that?
No.
So Israel came into the White House, and after they had left, the Secret Service found listening devices that had been planted on President Trump's official motorcade.
No
Okay?
shit.
Yes. And luckily they were able to find them and remove them. But it's very clear that the Israelis were trying to spy. Now, Israel is also not allowed to go to the CIA headquarters. Okay. And this is also coming from Jon Herold. He said that every single time the Israelis would come to FBI or go to the CIA, they would always bring gifts. And every time they brought a gift, there would be a bug in it. And it didn't matter how many times they got caught, didn't matter how many times they got called out. They would continue just to keep trying to spy.
Zach, what's the source on that story of the Secret Service finding the spy?
Hold on. I'm going to have to find it because I don't have it in front of me.
I'm not finding anything either. It was on the motorcade, you said?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Politico, 2019, Israel accused of planting mysterious spy devices near the White House. Do you remember this?
Is this the story they're talking about?
No, this would be a different one. The U.S. government concluded within the past 2 years that Israel was most likely behind the placement of cell phone surveillance devices that were found near the White House and other sensitive locations around Washington. So these were like Stingray devices. Okay.
Can we just get a story about how our special forces were running an operation in North Korea to try to plant some sort of devices next to Kim Jong-un's house, but then they got caught by a boat and they can't kill everybody on the boat. And once they kill everybody on the boat, they're like, oh, we can't do this anymore. And they left, and they were just citizens they killed or something. We just had that story. Me and Chris covered it on a Power Hour.
Yeah, I definitely remember the story, but it hasn't been confirmed by the administration.
Yeah.
This, however, was confirmed at the time. This is just the first article that I found on it because I remember reporting on it back then. They had like a letter that was written by Chris Krebs when he was still at the Department of Homeland Security. So let me see.
I'm not finding anything on. Well, I guess there's this video from Max Blumenthal on Alex Jones. So I don't know if I trust that at all.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was in this article that he mentions it. But so there was another report that I told you about the other day from this outlet called uns.com. I had heard of them before, but I don't really use them. And they had, independently of Harrison Smith, said that after Charlie's death, the author had reached out to people at the White House, and they were surprised and shocked to find that many people in the White House had immediately assumed after Charlie's death that Israel had something to do with it. And he said that it was shocking because so many people told him this independently, but that nobody in mainstream media was talking about it. It was like an open secret that people suspected, but everybody was too afraid to say something about it publicly. And it essentially in Max Blumenthal's article, he goes through, he tells the story of how Charlie Kirk had been offered this $150 million infusion to back TPUSA. Like that would double their budget. Their current budget is like $149 million. And a lot of that's coming from donors. Since Charlie had Tucker come on, I mean, this is all widely reported now. I mean, like when, Charlie questioned October 7th, right after it happened. Okay. He said all the same stuff we did. Like, that's the most heavily fortified nation in the world. How can it be possible that for 6 or 7 hours, they couldn't get to these people, 30 minutes from, east to west, right? If you're in a helicopter, but they got in with ATVs and flying parachutes or something.
Go-karts,
flying go-karts. And
paragliders or whatever.
And all those people were murdered. But because of all of those trials that I told you about, there were protests in the street against Benjamin Netanyahu, and they were on the verge of basically throwing Benjamin Netanyahu out of office. He was so unpopular because people saw him as this corrupt leader. Then October 7th happens, and Netanyahu quite literally clinches power. It's like his 9/11 moment, his George W. Bush moment. Suddenly everybody is aligned behind the idea that, they need to drive out the Islamists. They have to destroy Hamas. And they really went hard in the Gaza Strip. And, it's shocking to me for how long people were willing to sort of just like overlook it, because it truly would have been considered ethnic cleansing, like if it was any other nation. And I know that, it's a small area, right? And like Hamas is going to be living right alongside civilians. Okay. War is hell. People are used as human shields. All right. But the IDF is particularly brutal, and they will, sadistically, not all of them, but some of them have been known to sadistically and really like brutally kill people, and not soldiers, but like, people, regular people. And especially after October 7th, Bibi had this mandate to take control of the country, and he's done that. He's also rewritten the Constitution, and he has taken on some extraordinary powers since then. But there was this, Candace Owens has talked about this recently, this sort of intervention that happened over the summer, where a bunch of like big Jewish donors who had been upset about Tucker Carlson or, anything that Charlie or other people around him were saying about, just questioning the relationship with Israel. They were saying that they weren't going to donate anymore. They weren't going to support him. Charlie was being called an anti-Semite in the Israeli press. They were coming after him really hard. And so like this group of donors that got together, there was a conversation. Charlie said, I'm going to go my own way. I don't want the $150 million from Bibi. And then we end up having the assassination that we did. Now, people can say it's insane to think that Israel would murder Charlie Kirk. Okay. Well, there's a lot of other more insane things out there.
Well, people are saying that even suggesting that means you're going to hell, Zach. Like all of the people.
Are they saying that right now in the chat?
No, not in the chat. Well, maybe I haven't really looked at the chat, but I'm saying just generally, like all the people in Charlie's circle, funded by the Jews.
Yeah.
All of those people are saying that, even suggesting that if you're not accepting the official narrative of the assassination, then your soul will be condemned to hell. It's crazy.
So what's crazy to me is that Bibi was asked whether or not Israel killed Charlie Kirk by Greta Van Susteren, like within 48 hours.
It might have even been less than that. Do you remember when Bibi Netanyahu went on with the Nelk Boys? And it was just the lamest interview ever.
Well, it's because they wrote all the questions for him.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. It came out about a week later.
Yeah.
The Nelk Boys admitted, they gave us a list of all the questions we had to ask, and we had to stick to it. We couldn't stray from the scripted questions. And that's how they do their interviews with Bibi Netanyahu. So Greta getting that question and asking that question, that was a scripted question.
Yes. They wanted her to ask that 100%. And what's even crazier is that Netanyahu came out even after that and did another public statement saying that, of course, Israel didn't kill Charlie Kirk. Okay, well, methinks the lady doth protest too much. And I want to present a concept to you guys. It's called Din Rodef. This is the authorization of extrajudicial murder within Jewish law. Din Rodef. Law of the pursuer. It permits the killing of those who are deemed a threat to individual Jews or the Jewish state without the benefit of due process. And we have a very public example of this that took place November 4th, 1995.
Wait, so this is part of their law, their doctrine? Like, what is this part of?
This is part of their law, okay? The religious, doctrine and, the law of the state overlap in many cases. And you'll see this here. November 4th, 1995, that was when Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was politically assassinated at a rally in Tel Aviv. He was assassinated because he was on the verge of recognizing the Palestinian state and making peace with the PLA. And that was just something that certain people could not abide. They could not allow that. And specifically, this Talmudic law student by the name of Yigal Amir. He is the one who assassinated Yitzhak Rabin. Now, during his trial, can you guess what his defense was?
Din Rodef.
Din Rodef. This was his legal defense to justify the murder of Yitzhak Rabin. So the basis of his argument was that Rabin, by signing the Oslo Accords and relinquishing much of the West Bank to Palestinian rule, had endangered Jewish lives and should therefore be considered a pursuer. Now, publicly, Amir was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. We've never seen him again, so I don't know that he's there. But a lot of, they say, radical right-wing Israelis have campaigned for clemency on his behalf, including Benjamin Netanyahu's own Minister of National Security.
I have a clip here from that Go sent over.
Okay.
And it's, this might be the right time. You can tell me if it's not. If not, we can save it for later. But it talks about Benjamin Netanyahu from Boston area television, 1978, where he says Palestinians have no right. Excuse me. Yeah, it's weird. It's twice I've seen these tonight. No right to self-governance, and that the entire Palestinian statehood movement is about destroying the state of Israel. Then it goes on to say they signed the Oslo Accords in 1993. Maybe it's not, doesn't fit here.
Well, I mean, it's only 3 minutes. Go ahead. I mean, I think it maybe would have been more appropriate to play earlier on when we were talking about him as a young man and his father being the secretary of the New Zionism.
It sparked in my head when you brought up the Oslo Accords in what you just read.
Yeah, go for it.
As my first witness, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu.
Mr. Natai, welcome to the advocate.
Thank you. Mr. Natai is a graduate of MIT. He is an Israeli, and he is a man who has written widely on this question before the House tonight. Mr. Natai Is the issue of self-determination the core of the conflict in the Middle East?
No, I don't believe it is. The real core of the conflict is the unfortunate Arab refusal to accept the state of Israel. And I think, as was mentioned earlier, for 20 years, the Arabs had both the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And if self-determination were, as they now say, the core of the conflict, they could have easily established a Palestinian state then, but they didn't.
When did the issue arise then?
Well, for 20 years, we didn't hear a word about self-determination. And in fact, what we did hear, those of us living in the Middle East, was about driving the Jews into the sea. Now, after 1967, under the leadership of the PLO, the hardline strategy shifted to adopting a moderate, dressed-up slogan, which now talked in terms of first a secular democratic state, and then replaced it with Palestinian self-determination. But what this really means, contrary to what Mr. Aruri said, about 1977 being a changed year in the PLO's objective, let me quote you what the PLO Information Office said in a Dutch paper in 1977, in May 5th.
77?
May 5th, 1977, yes. The statement was very simple. Our objective remains the destruction of the Zionist state of Israel. So let's keep in mind that what we're talking about here is not the attempt to build a state, but to destroy one.
Do the Palestinians have a right to a separate state?
Well,
Mr. John has been talking about human rights.
Well, I think that no, I don't think they do, but I think that it's quite instructive that the Palestinians who are invoking the right of self-determination, which is an attribute for separate nations, themselves are the ones who define themselves as part of the Arab nation. Now, no one is denying that there are Palestinian Arabs. There's a very distinguished Palestinian Arab sitting right next to me. But the Palestinians themselves, in the Palestinian National Covenant, the very first article, say that the people of Palestine, quote, are part of the Arab nation. Well, let's look at the Arab nation. It has 21 states, an area roughly the size of the United States, and 1/6 of the entire world's wealth. Now, add to that the fact that there already exists a Palestinian state, and that is Jordan, 60% of whose population is Palestinian. I think it's quite interesting that Yasser Arafat and King Hussein, who are bitter enemies, agree on one thing, that Jordan is a Palestinian state. So what we're talking about is a demand for a 22nd Arab state and a second Palestinian state. Call it.
There you go. Okay. Back to what you were saying.
So, well, let me actually go back to the time when there was a Palestinian state. It used to be British occupied Palestine. All right. And the British were, kind of like, keepers of this land until the Balfour Declaration. And even during this time, there was still British occupation. Right here from the British Foreign Office. You can see here, Dear Lord Rothschild. Yes, that Lord Rothschild at the time. I have much pleasure in conveying to you on behalf of His Majesty's government the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. Now, this is the important part. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious liberties of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. All right. So obviously that didn't happen, right? I mean, once they got there, things did not go well. Nobody wanted anybody else to be there. All right. You had at the time, Germany had transferred some 20% of their Jewish population. This would have been, I want to say, in the early 1930s, late 1920s. 20% of the population, which was something like 23,000 Jews. That was with Hitler's transfer agreement. And Ghost will actually know the year on that. I don't have that in front of me. But when the transfer agreement was finalized, I want you to, that number is much smaller. If it was 20%, you would expect it to be a couple of million, right? But it was only like tens of thousands. And so once they got there and things started to integrate, it was very clear that there was never going to be this like peaceful dwelling of both communities. Both of them wanted the other one to be gone. Okay, so just jumping back in here, and we can actually look this up in the book Torah HaMalakah, the King's Torah, Rabbis Yitzhak Shapira and Yosef Elitzer explained that Din Rodef applies even when the pursuer is not threatening to kill directly, but only indirectly. Anyone who weakens your own state by word or similar action is considered a pursuer. And I would just like, again, to say that Jewish media were now calling Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite and calling him a Hamas apologist. And I think that the definition that you have there from the rabbis shows that they could make the case that in word, Charlie Kirk was going against the state of Israel and putting people in danger. So I don't think it's crazy to think that there would be some really hardline people inside the Mossad or within the Israeli government that would be willing to sign off on this.
Yeah. You know, I've seen the conflict that's taking place on Twitter over this. And it's been really interesting to watch because there's two factions that have formed, and it's like the Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and some of the more TPUSA people going against Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and that group of people. And ironically, Nick Fuentes is in the Israel camp, but they're fighting over like Charlie's actual thoughts on Israel at the time of his death. And one camp is like, yeah, there's a shift that he was making behind the scenes, and the other side's like, oh, that's absolutely not true. Look at all these clips from 2022 and 2023 of how pro-Israel he was. Some interesting arguments being made though by the Tucker Candace stuff. I've seen some of it. The things, there are videos out there, guys, and the people that are in like the Charlie pro-Israel camp, like you have to look at the video evidence that is out there. I know there's tons of video evidence supporting your side, but just the last like couple months, there's also video evidence that exists that you have to like come to terms with and put that into the equation that you're when you're going through the logical thought process of whether or not it's possible that he was turning on Israel in some fashion, not like turning on them as a whole, but like turning on what the Netanyahu regime has been doing. There's a compelling case to be made.
Yes. Okay. So I had to look it up. The transfer agreement was signed August 7th, 1933. That was an agreement between the German government and the Zionist movement to transfer many Jewish Germans over to Palestine. It was some 53,000 that were transferred, and much of their wealth was transferred as well. And by 1933, from all around the world, there was about 1 in 10 of the Palestinian inhabitants were Jews. So that would be approximately 235,000 to 900,000 Arabs.
Gotcha.
Okay. And just, yeah, so we have it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm with the whole Charlie Kirk assassination, the post that Kash Patel put out, I think it was yesterday during
I thought
Charlie's.
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, he could have come out and shut down every conspiracy theory. He could have come out and like nipped on the butt, and that's what I would have expected from him, because that's what we always get from the authorities, right? Like it's like, this is the official narrative, stick to the official narrative. But no, he's like, we are looking into everything. We're going to look into everything. We're going to look at different shooters. We're going to look at different angles. We're going to look at entry and exit wounds. And in my opinion, it kind of, I don't know, everybody out there that has been defending like the Charlie Kirk, the primary storyline, the narrative, and telling you if you question it, you're basically shitting on Charlie's grave. It's just basically what they've been saying. Completely blows that up. You can't say that when you have the director of the FBI coming out now saying like, yeah, we're going to pursue all this stuff. Now, he could be doing it because ultimately he's going to go with the official narrative. We'll see. But I thought it was base as hell.
I thought it was base as hell too. I was super stoked. And I mean, you combine that with President Trump's personal message to Pam Bondi. Yep. I mean, so President Trump, he posts this very personal message to Pam Bondi, is explicitly in the same way that Kash did, telling the base, like, I'm actually reading your posts. I'm paying attention to what you see and what you're saying. And I see and believe the exact same thing. And so I'm putting this pressure on Pam Bondi and the DOJ to tell them that we cannot lose credibility. We must follow through on these things. Okay. And Kash Patel doing the same thing, letting people know like, hey, I cannot talk about all these things But what I can talk about, I will. And you need to know that I'm not stopping. Okay. The official story is all coming from the Utah authorities. But at the same time, the FBI is still doing this, this exhaustive investigation. And there is ample opportunity for the narrative to expand quite a bit. And so both Cash and President Trump are saying, I hear you, and we're working on this. Okay. So don't lose faith. And, but yes, I felt like I felt the collective sigh of the official narrative when Kash Patel put that out, because, anybody who's saying like, oh, Tyler Robinson, he's the lone shooter and it was just a tranny and like that's all that it was. I mean, you can't say that because it's clearly much bigger than that. And so I think that we've talked about Israel and JFK before. So, I mean, if you guys didn't see that, definitely go watch that show. I think that there is a pretty solid argument to be made that they were involved in that as well. So I don't think that they would blink twice at it. And I don't think that it matters that it's Charlie Kirk. I don't think that it matters that it's a president or a prime minister of another country. I think that everything that the hardline Israeli government has shown us is that they are willing to do whatever it takes to survive in an area filled with people who want them to not be there. And at the same time, Netanyahu is trying to bring about, the Jewish Messiah. And
here's one more thing I want to point out. The people that get so offended by the questions, like people asking legitimate questions about this investigation, about the assassination attempt, about whether Israel's involved or not, you can't get offended, because if you are right and none of it's true and you have the truth on your side, you shouldn't have to say a thing. It shouldn't matter, because the truth at some point will come out. Hopefully it typically does, though, whether it takes years, decades, whatever, it comes out. And if you're right, you're going to be right. But they get so up in arms. It's like they're getting personally attacked by somebody suggesting this stuff. And that's kind of the beauty for them of these trauma events. They're able to make it socially unacceptable to question anything because it's just too insensitive. You're being too insensitive.
Well, not only that, but just like the left, their identity is wrapped up in their ideology. They are who they are because of what they believe. Okay. Not because of any moral compass or any ethics. It's simply because of what's been ingrained in their brains. And they use that exact same thing to appeal to the minds of people who have been taught from birth that Israel is our greatest ally. You cannot question Israel, because if you question Israel, that means you're an anti-Semite. If you're an anti-Semite, that means you're either an Islamic fascist or you're a Nazi, a National Socialist. Okay. And couldn't be anything worse than either of those two things. You end up doing mental gymnastics like Ted Cruz, unable to quote the Bible, but then at the same time using it as your rationale to suggest. So oh my God, that was my favorite moment of the last year. I absolutely loved that.
We should use that as our outro tonight.
Okay, we can do that. But at the end of the day, you cannot allow these things to become your identity. Okay, like your identity is so much more. It must be so much more. And in the face of overwhelming evidence, I think that it's interesting to me how people are willing to question so many different things, but then when it comes to something like this, people just immediately dig their heels in and they say no because they've simply been told not to.
I'm sorry, I'm looking for that clip just to make sure. I don't know if that's the right one. Anyway, sorry.
So I would also urge anybody here to watch our Baseless Conspiracies on Jewish false flags, which, is another eye-opening show if you're not aware of the rich history of the Jewish government's use of Islamic terrorism, of the sinking of the U.S. Liberty. I think that was a whole different show, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, the deep state's going to deep state. And it's just so ridiculous to think that just because somebody identifies as Jewish, they can't be deep state.
Yep. Every state got its good twin and evil twin. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
Wait, let's get to the boosts and the rants, but two things before we do. First up, guys, do me a favor, do Zach a favor, hit that thumbs up if you don't mind. We greatly appreciate it. We also got an ad spot here from Soft Disclosure.
Deodorant should do more than cover you up. It should protect you all day long.
Dude, the deodorant stick is legit. I like the mint one. And, you go work out and you kind of get you get funky if you work out. Dude, like at the end of my workout, like I'm sweating, shirt got all those sweat. I'm like, dude, I still smell good. Like, I absolutely love it. If you guys haven't tried it, try it.
That's the difference with Soft Disclosure. No aluminum, no chemicals, just clean, natural ingredients that fight odor and keep you fresh through every workout, every meeting, every moment.
I've always struggled with the you can't use aluminum deodorant because you're going to die if you use it kind of thing, because all of the non-aluminum deodorant products suck pretty much. Yeah. This is different. This is all day. You're all day good, and you're not putting any of that disgusting chemicals right near your lymph nodes.
Soft Disclosure deodorant, real protection, real freshness, built on truth. Available in mint and lemon grapefruit. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off.
Soft disclosure. Sergeant Sparky says, here comes the gay whisper. I've heard that only gay people think that whisper is gay. So joke's on you. But yeah, soft disclosure, guys. Awesome. Support Badlands Media. It's a great way to do it and get something in return. Some of the best skincare products you could possibly ever find. We also, I just noticed we just got featured on Rumble.
Oh, really?
Closing up the show. So, but thank you for the feature. We appreciate it. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was going to point out our events page. People were talking about this in the chat earlier. Our next GART stop is coming up, Cocoa Beach, Florida, November 6th through the 9th. It's going to be a fantastic time. This is one of my favorite venues, probably my second favorite venue besides Deadwood. This place is awesome. Get your tickets. Tickets are available right now. We're going to be doing a special on virtual tickets here soon too. I'll get some more info on that out soon. But also, whole bunch of Badlands meetups coming up. Make sure you go to the page, badlandsmedia.tv/events. Scroll down to the bottom. Find your local group. Check out all these meetups. You guys are on fire getting these things going. Absolutely love them. And then let's see the boosts here quick. We got Butters. Says for $34. Oh, there's two of them here. Clarifying last week's boost. A brilliant French doctor homeopath taught that sleep apnea was just liver stagnation. So I treated TXD as such with consistent success 20 years ago. Diet and lifestyle changes with BT liver drainage. Oil filter is clogged. You can treat symptoms for treated cause. P.S. Speaking of diet changes, Zach, have you been to Organic Restaurant in South Daytona, Martinis? Next time you go, please be sure to say hello to the chef and tell him Butter sent you.
Oh, I have not, but I didn't even know that restaurant existed. So now that I know, I'll totally go there and I will say Butter sent me. Appreciate you.
I'm assuming that's going to get you a free meal. And if it doesn't, Butters, we're going to have some words. I want to go to Daytona now just for the martini. I would love to go somewhere and say, hey man, Butter sent me. I just feel like that'd be a fun thing to say to somebody. And it means something,
Okay.
1027
Hold on. I want to
JS.
make sure it says, please say hello to the chef. Okay. I will be like, is the chef available?
Butters sent me.
He's like, who the fuck is Butters? It's like, what, like South Park? I'm just playing. That's awesome.
1027 JS for $20 says later, guys.
Peace.
Thank you, 1027 JS. Good to see you, my fellow North Dakotan. And then we got a couple Rumble rants to go through these as well. And I got to figure out a way to get those shared on my screen, but I can't. So I'm using a different browser. We have a new sponsor coming on soon, and it's like a browser type thing. I'll explain later, but
okay.
I forgot to connect them. So I don't know if you have them popped out and can share it. If not, I can just read them.
I don't have them popped out. No. I use Opera.
Okay. All right. Team Smooth became a monthly supporter. Thank you, Team Smooth. Log Cabin Chad says, totally unrelated to tonight's subject. If you would please ask BB, I think we read that one earlier.
I did. Yeah.
Clarify him our shipping stuff. I did message him that, and he said a lot of people are saying they're not getting the emails from Kickstarter. I'll have to put an email out with an alternative method. So
okay,
he's going to work on that. The Alpha Warrior Show says, raid your boy Alpha after the show. Hi, fam. We'll do that. DAC8869, another $18 to make Alpha's rant worth $20, so you'll rate his show. Got your back, Alpha. Thank you, DAC. And I wasn't going to actually rate him before, but now that you sent $18, I think I will. Sleep State sends a Reddit. It looks like a Norm Macdonald something. A 1968 Israeli shekel. A terrible design for a coin. Reminds me of that tragedy. That's
oh my God.
I'd never seen that before.
Wow.
Let the Rest Begin says, well done, Zach and John. BB deserves a revealing now. Thank you, Zach. Nailed it. Eden's Refuge, great show, gentlemen. Zach, I emailed you. Thanks, guys. Brett Hour. People criticize John's faith, but John provided a lot of comfort to a lot of Christians during the Biden madness. That was the love of brethren right there. Thank you, John. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And Log Cabin Chad says thanks. I think that's all we got. So let's close out with the Ted Cruz Tucker Carlson clip, and we'll get you guys out of here, and then we'll rage over to Alpha Show.
Team Smooth says, actually, it was just correcting a card expiration to fix my sub, but okay, cool.
Well, hey, we appreciate it either way. We appreciate all the subs. And anybody who gifted subs during the show, greatly appreciated. Remember, rants are the best way to directly support your favorite creators on this network. That and buying the products our sponsors sell. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Hit that thumbs up. We will see you next time we see you. Zach, you have a good one, man.
You too, brother. Peace.
Peace.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah. How could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about... Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran. You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who claims anything about the country. No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad. They're trying to murder Trump. Yes, I do. Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that, we're carrying out military strikes today. You said Israel was right with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them. Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity. No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them. You just said we were. We are supporting Israel. High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening. Okay.